Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. With me this week is Matt Plaskoff, the owner of 1 Week Bath in Van Nuys, California, where he has over 35 years of experience in construction, 70 employees. He was a construction consultant for 2 years on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. And, you know, he's operating with fast turnaround times. You don't run a company called 1 Week Bath without getting it done quickly. And so we're going to dig into why he's operating with employees. And I also know that he has an in-house training program to ensure consistency, repeatable results, and to make things happen. And this is a model that I believe needs to exist more within the flooring, tile, stone industries, as opposed to all of us running around thinking that we're going to be best operating on our own. We go and we hire what most people call a helper, which I hate that term. Stop using it. If you want to hire a helper, go work for somebody else and let them hire you an apprentice so that the person has an opportunity to advance and grow their career as opposed to make cuts for you forever and nowhere to go. I think that's another problem, but that's a whole other topic. But essentially, we're going to dig into what Matt has going on for systems to not only be able to grow this to, there's 11 three-people crews out running around in California turning bathrooms over in a week. That you don't build that overnight, but you also don't build that without consistency, dedication, and having some systems and processes in place to be able to ensure quality and consistency. And I know everyone's going to say, I can't find good help. I can't find people that want to show up. I can't trust anybody to do the work for me. No one will do it like me. I know all your excuses. I was you. I am you. Matt's not you. Matt's different. Let's find out from him what he has going on before we have him introduce himself. Floor Academy Podcast is here every week as your source to learn about the back side of your business, how to implement the systems and processes you need so that you can grow a successful operation instead of just owning a job and being able to collect a paycheck, which none of us want to do. We do that not only through the podcast, but you should also check out our mastermind groups where we put groups of 5 individuals into accountability groups. We meet every other week. We talk about your goals, what you're working on, how you're working on them. You get insights from the other members. You get to externalize your thoughts as a business owner, which we don't do a lot. We internalize too many things. It's a really great time. You can learn more at flooracademypod.com/mastermind. And starting now, new in October, we have our masterclass masterminds once a month, Saturday mornings, third Saturday of the month, where not only do I let anybody that's in a mastermind group come in and meet one Saturday morning a month, but we are now opening that up. Anybody can come in, and the members that are part of the mastermind groups will take turns, and they will teach something out of their business that they have implemented, that system, that process, and they are going to spend the first little bit of the Saturday morning teaching you, and then we're going to open it up to a forum where everyone can discuss whatever they would like and start getting insights or to ask questions about their businesses in particular, and you get to start learning from everybody. That's going to be $99 a month. Go on, get in my email, flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. Tell me you're interested. I'll get you signed up. We'll make it happen. You're going to start learning. You're going to start growing. And soon you're going to want to be a part of one of the mastermind groups and really pushing your business in a new direction. Thank you to all the sponsors. Thank you to IQ. They just popped on for this quarter. So we have them to thank for helping make the content, as well as Johns Manville and Tice. And we will hear a little bit more from them all later. That's enough of me running my mouth. Let's get to the reason for the episode. Matt, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
Well, first of all, Kyle, thanks for having me. And also kudos to you on the mastermind groups and those ideas because, I've been doing this for 35 years. When I first started, I still don't know everything, and I didn't know a whole lot about business. I was an entrepreneur and business person since I was 10 years old selling candy out of my playhouse. But so I always had that thing, but I didn't know how to read a financial statement. I didn't know whether I was making or losing money on a job. But I did really well. But what got me off the ground in a lot of cases were mastermind groups and industry think tank groups that I could join, where I could sit down with like-minded individuals who could share things and we could share things, and you could be surprised at how much you can learn from others. And that made a huge difference to me. So kudos to you. I'm jealous that you're doing it. I want to do it eventually when I stop running this company. But anyway, so that's that. So who am I? So I've been in the business for 35 years. I started actually in the super high-end custom home building business out here in Hollywood. I've built for every possible high-end star that you can name, and won't name them on the podcast, but you can look up stuff. And I was building 15,000 square foot homes, huge, big projects. And by the way, using subcontractors, because you don't really have a choice when you're building a big, giant custom home to use subcontractors. And part of the impetus for developing One Week Bath, the business that I still have the other business. My 32-year-old daughter runs it, and she's like, "Dad, how did you do this? I don't understand." And that's after just 5 years. And so what I experienced with that, while I made an incredible living, I was craving something that was more controllable, to be honest, because I'm kind of a control freak. I was craving something that provided a better solution for my clients and for myself. And I was tired of chasing subs and begging for quality work and, not having different people show up every day or not show up. I just was tired of all those, I'm sure, trials and tribulations that a lot of you guys out there and gals out there are experiencing. And I was like, the only way that I can build a business that I can stomach, and I'm going on 62 years old, so I've been doing this a long time. The only way I could build a business that I could stomach was to have my own people. And that was the bottom line of it. And so that was a challenge. As you said, when you first started out, it was a challenge. Like, you're starting from scratch, right? I mean, you're starting from scratch.
Yeah. So nothing usually.
So what did I do? I built a training program, and I took people who wanted to learn, and I created this One Week Bath University thing with a silly university seal. And I would get groups of 30 people, and I'd put them through, and like 3 would survive, and that's how I would create a 3-man crew. And their final exam was to build a bathroom in a week. We would give them a pallet of the stuff, and we'd be like, okay, you've been trained for 2 weeks. Now, whoever, go, And so,
well, okay. So this isn't on a live job site. This isn't like a warehouse somewhere, right?
This isn't a warehouse. This is like vignettes, right? This is like vignettes. So, I built it from zero, basically, to where it is now, with, like you said, I've got 11 crews. It fluctuates between 10 and 11. Sometimes we'll combine depending on whatever. But, and so, yeah, here we are. And I'm prepared when you're ready. You can run the show here. I'm prepared to share how I do it. Like that question that you asked, look, I'm not without the trials and tribulations of finding quality people. Like that's not unique to you or your listeners. But there's a method to it in a way.
Well, so I think first, I think we need to start at like, what was the point of creating your One Week Bath University, right? I think with 35 years experience, you've probably seen what I've seen in my short 7 years of experience, where you can go around, and I've interviewed hundreds of contractors at this point over 4 years, and most everybody is like, well, I get a guy and I train him, and we just kind of go with, whatever happens that day. It's all wishy-washy, up in the air. And then some of the larger companies I've talked to, well, this lead guy needs a new apprentice, and so that, Tommy trains the apprentice one way, Billy trains the apprentice another, and Sammy trains that apprentice a third way, and then those guys come up, and then they're put on a team together, and they're arguing over how to do something because they all learn 3 separate ways, as opposed to a company having one standard way. And every large company that I worked for in my younger years, and I guess this is where a lot of my stuff comes from, is like I spent time working at Grainger for a while and at UPS, and even Target for a very, very short stint, but like working for these larger retailers and like operations facilities, everything has to be done in a certain way. Everyone's trained the same way, so everyone's on the same page. And maybe that's where I'm getting this from, as opposed to, hey, your dad trains you or your uncle trains you or whatever it is generally. But how'd you even come up with it, and why did you know you needed it, right? Like, what made that stand out?
My dad. My dad was a college professor. So education was like a big thing, and I understood what curriculum was, and I understood what putting together a training program looked like, in a way, kind of. And I had the idea, like you just said, which is that you got, so I'll say it in 2 words: process manuals. Process manuals. So one of the things that are lacking in small businesses, I guarantee it, if you look on the shelf in a typical small business, you are not going to find process manuals. You are not going to find procedure manuals. You are not going to find training programs. You are not going to find any of that. You're going to find exactly what you said. And look, by the way, the apprentice program, unfortunately, in your industry and my industry, and generally in these industries, it's a shame, because there aren't very many apprentice programs out there. Guys and gals are not coming up in the trades typically. And so you have to, so I took raw talent and I molded them. And part of that, Kyle, is like, if I took a guy who had 20 years of experience, like building bathrooms, and I said, dude, you're going to build a bathroom in a week, he would have looked at me and said, "You're out of." One of the questions when I hire people, like I have so many processes, Kyle. I can't do it in an hour. But part of it comes from the hiring. One of my hiring questions was, "Do you think it's difficult to build a bathroom in a week?" And if the answer was yes, then it was like, bye, because I had to break all these preconceived, like, that's impossible. That's impossible. Well, if you think it's impossible, then you can't work here, because I can't convince you that you can do it. So having raw talent that didn't have these preconceived notions was a great thing. But I also had to start with some non-raw talent, because I had to get the business off the ground. And that came from testing, a lot, and physical testing. Like, you might say, okay, you want to work for us, lay this floor, or whatever, So anyway, so the curriculum was put together because I wanted things done a certain way, and I wanted it to be consistent. And so that, I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, I mean, it's a start, right? So, okay, I 100% agree. You just don't see systems, processes, those manuals, these documented things. If we go in, we do this the same way every time. And I think a lot of times, again, look, I understand that. And you've already we were talking a little bit before and you mentioned it, right? Like, these are craftspeople or artisans, right? Whatever you kind of want to consider them, I get it. We're building things with our hands. We're very proud of it. And I think that's wonderful. But they get into, well, they're not all the same. I disagree. And I think you probably would too, because that's why you can have a system and a process. They may not all be the same. And I get it, right? This one's 3x5. That one's a 4x6. This one has a concrete subfloor. That one's got a wooden subfloor. At the base of it, we're going to walk in. We're going to probably have to demo something, and we're going to have to install something. So what does it look like to get the old thing out and the new thing in? There's a bunch of steps that are consistently repeatable within that. And I would assume that's where you started, was what's the same every time? How do I walk through the decisions to say, I do this, then this, then this, based on what I'm walking into, right?
That's where it starts. And then you have these little offshoots in your manual that talk about, but what if? Like, there's forks in the road, right? So, like, what if you tear up an old floor and, like, it's totally irregular? You can't lay your floor on top of that thing. You've got to do something to it. Are you grinding it? Are you pouring level Q? What are you doing to that floor, right? So you have to have these like, or we had these little caution tips, caution, beware, this could happen type thing,
Okay.
just to alert the crew. Okay, this is what, and look, after a while of doing it, you train them on it, you do it. And then obviously it's ingrained in my lead. Like my average guy has been with me over 10 years. I just retired a 35-year guy that was with me for 35 years. First guy ever hired. And I just retired a 20-year guy. So we don't have a lot of turnover. That's a whole nother discussion.
Congratulations.
But yeah, no, it's wonderful, because could you imagine like having to just constantly retrain people? It's painful. And that's one of the reasons why people don't want to do it.
Well, yeah, it's especially hard when you don't have a repeatable system, though. And okay, so what's the next objection? Well, this is hard. I don't have time to do that. And it sounds like you kept the house building thing going, and that company still exists, and you had some money kind of coming in that you could sit and focus and work on 1 week bath. But I make the argument on the show all the time. Come on, folks, 15 minutes a day. I don't care if that gets you 2 sentences, right? In 15 minutes a day, if you can come up with 2 sentences towards your system, your process, whatever it is you're working on, a year down the road, you're going to have a couple of sentences and systems and processes figured out, right? So I think you just got to start somewhere, right? Stop making excuses and get it done.
Also, by the way, we're in a different place than I was 20 years ago when I started this business. We had it, but we didn't really have an easy way to do videos.
Mm-hmm.
So one amazing training tool that I use is these little snippet videos. I use them on, you can record them on Zoom, you can record them on your phone, you can record them in the field, you can record them in your office, whatever it is. Like with our salespeople, when we train our salespeople, I'm constantly doing these little snippets on Zoom. Here's how you send a template email. Here's how those types of things. And then I upload them onto Dropbox, and then I just like go watch these snippets. So I don't have to keep saying the same thing over and over and over. And it's the same thing. Like the current generation has a huge benefit from having to create paper process manuals, they're valuable because you can look things up. But if you had a snippet of like, okay, what's the best way to butter a tile, or what's the best way to da-da-da-da-da, and these guys can watch these things just on a video, like that takes like 10 seconds. It takes no time. Know what I mean?
The argument is, I don't have time, right? And I mean, the mindset. You went through this. It's, I don't have time to train you. Move, get out of my way, let me do it. Again, my argument is, which is the right one, and you can attest to this because you've done it, is no, stop. Actually spend the 2 hours it's going to take to train them the right way, and then you free up that 15 minutes for the rest of their career, which is probably 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Like, you're going to get your 2 hours, more than your 2 hours back. And so if you want to make the video about them back buttering a tile, oh, but I got to set up the camera and I got to do this. Yes, but you're only making it one time. So it's an extra 2 minutes today, and then you don't ever have to train somebody on it again. You just have the video. And that's exactly what it's going to be, a long-term savings plan that has it'll be a slow payoff at first. But
I think you're right. I think that a lot of business owners, look, I'm guilty of not wanting to delegate. It's like a lot of us who are control freaks and, are like, I can just do it. Right. And so that's true. And so you have to get past that, because there's 2 parts of it, which are that person is never going to do it as good as I can do it. Right. And then the other part of it, like you're talking about, is, do I have the time to do it? I think you just pick the things that would free up your time the most, and then you do those first, and things that you could delegate. But the bottom line is, what we're talking about is trying to create a consistency. Look, what kind of consistency do you have if you hire a piece worker that's laying like, what consistency do you ever have when you're hiring a subcontractor to lay flooring for you? You don't even know which guys they're going to send each time. You don't even know who's going to show up. Like, you may be using the same sub for installation, but you don't know whether he's going to send John or Bob or Sam, or if you're going to get a good person, or can you communicate with them? Like, there are too many variables in that. But anyway, I don't want to digress.
Well, no, I mean, that's part of the conversation. And so we have this training program that's allowing you to make consistent employees that all operate the exact same way. And on the other side, you have this subcontracting model where, at least within the flooring space, most subcontractors are, there's a couple that I know that are smaller and they have a couple crews they might run out of one shop or something like that, out of a retail shop. But for the most part, it's usually just an individual guy. Maybe he's got an apprentice or two, and they show up and they do it. And so you kind of know the consistency. But, when I first started out, I had one person that kept me fairly busy, but I had another guy that I could call, and he did a lot of work for some of the bigger workrooms, and he would just tell me an address and send me out there for the day. And it would, sometimes I saw the same people, sometimes I saw all new people, and it was just this hodgepodge of, I'm just going to get as many people on this project as possible to knock it out so I can get to the next one, because that's really the only way you can make money on those things, in my opinion. But you're right. There's no consistency. You're just getting work done, and who knows what's going to end up happening. And so what is the balance? What's the trade-off to make it worth your while to take employees over subcontractors? Because the cost is higher. I'm not going to argue that.
To have employees?
Yes. Theoretically, depending on how you figure it all out and all of that, the cost of having employees is higher if you're paying benefits and matching taxes and all of that stuff. The cost should be higher. But for the trade-off of less problems, is it worth it?
But isn't the subcontractor, are you talking about subcontractors? You're calling a sub and they're sending their people to install, right?
Yes, correct.
So isn't that guy marking up his people?
I would hope so, but I mean, as well as I do that that's probably not.
Yeah, and then they're working under the table and they don't have insurance and all this other stuff.
Correct.
And
you don't know what you're getting.
Right. You don't know what you're getting. That's the problem. That's one of the big problems. So the trade-off. Okay, so look, you just touched on something that's important, which is that having your own employees is not without risk, right? One of the reasons that people use subcontractors is because you mitigate your risk, right? You get a quote to install, you've got a fixed price. You just say, yeah, or whatever, per square foot, whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. And as a contractor, as a general or a floor, whoever's selling to the client, a prime, whatever, you've mitigated your risk because you don't have to manage whether your guys are moving fast enough, right? And you don't have to do any of that stuff. So there's some risk associated with it. But for me, so the benefits for me, okay, the benefits, the way I look at it, are A, you can hire people that have your values, that if you want to put your brand and your face forward, you can look at a customer in the eye and say, this guy, I hired this guy, I trained this guy, he's my guy, he's going to treat you the way I'm treating you, okay? That's number one. And so you can do that. The other thing is that you don't have to worry about damage much, because those people that work for you care about the project more than the people that don't, right? And so if a sub is sending just these random guys or whatever, especially if you have multiple trades on a job, right? It's like, oh, I didn't ding the wall, the finished carpenter did it, like that whole thing, right? And so there's this whole like care of the home, right? There's a disconnect in terms of what they're supposed to do sometimes, because with our system, we sell the job, we have our specs, that goes through our system. Our VP of production, who manages all our guys, reviews it, make sure that we could do what we say we're going to do, and that everything's prepped properly for our people to come in. And then when our people come in, it goes off like clockwork, right? So there's no like sub showing up going, oh, you guys aren't ready for me. You know, I'm going to go away for 6 weeks because I got another job.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. You guys aren't ready for me. Like, don't even bother to come out to the job site and scout it before you send your guys. Call me the day your guys show up and yell at me because you don't like the way the subfloor looks, and then pull off for 6 weeks. That doesn't happen in our world, you know? And so there's no blame game too. Like our guys, you know, I mean, it's our guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supervision. This is a big one. So like in our crews, we have three guys on our crew. We have a lead installer who's there every single day working with his own hands. He's probably laying tile or whatever. And project management isn't an issue because there's somebody there from our company on our payroll that can speak directly to the client, that can handle the crew and manage the process instead of some project manager or business owner running around like a chicken with his head cut off to try to hit every single job because something's going wrong on every single job type thing, right?
Yeah,
so there's a supervision aspect of it. The other thing that you can do is you can incentivize your workers we have a profit sharing program. We have an open book management program that we run where our employees are all involved in the finances of our company, and we can incentivize them. We can't do that with subcontractors. You can't incentivize a subcontractor to do anything except go too fast because they're trying to make the money. That's the other thing, quality, right? So if I'm a piece worker and I know I get X amount of dollars a square foot, or if I'm a sub and I know I gave Kyle a quote of $5,000 to do the job, I'm going to go as fast as I can to make my $5,000.
Yeah.
So there's quality issues that get unbalanced there. So there's all this stuff that I just was sick of it. Like, so that's why I did what I did.
No, and look, I agree with you 100%. These are the things I see. That's what I'm looking at it from the same perspective, and that's why I love having these conversations and seeing it talked out. I guess the argument is constantly, yeah, but if you pay them by the hour, they're gonna lollygag and they're gonna dog it and they're gonna take their time and go really slow. But as you just said, you offer profit sharing. You're incentivizing them to have quality and speed standards, and let alone their employees. So look, folks, you can think they're going to dog it all you want, but let's look at who hired them. Okay. So that's you. You made a bad decision, in my opinion, if you hired the kind of person that's going to have that attitude. And two, it's your employee. You get to control everything about the aspect of the project, which means you can clearly set standards of you have to be able to accomplish X, Y, and Z within an 8-hour period. And if you can't, then there's no place for you here. So can they really take advantage of you as much as you think they can? Or are you just making excuses and trying to find a way to have it be easy, or that you don't want to deal with the hassle of actually trying to grow your company? And so where did you lie on all of that, right? Were those things you fought through?
That is the key that is one of the key questions. What you just asked is of utmost concern. So let's go to, I hired them. I test my people not only for their skills, but behavioral styles and other things. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And I know that generally the type of person I'm hiring is not going to lollygag it on purpose just to run hours, right? But that doesn't mean that they won't take longer than you estimated. That's a pretty common thing in our business, right? Hey, it's supposed to take like 8 hours and it took the guy, 12, and you're like, dude, we're over budget type thing. So it's not without tracking though. So that's the other key, is that you can't, you give someone, so the way we run it is more like a manufacturing business, right? Where you go, okay, I've allocated this many hours for this project based on knowledge and experience about how long it might take to tile a shower or install a cabinet or whatever it is, right? And then you track the job, and by the way, not only do you reward those performers, right? But you also have a sheet that everybody sees that says, "Hey, man, you're the slowest guy in the company. Like your team is the slow." I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm just saying, like, there's an old adage, from running these groups is like what's measured, gets paid attention to
Yes.
and usually gets better, and the things that are ignored usually get worse. So the way to do it is to go, okay, sit down with the people that are installing the floor and say, we feel like it's going to take this long to install the floor. Do you agree with us? Yes, we agree. Okay, cool. Go for it. And then then track, this is just so much business stuff, but track, you're 50% done with the floor, but you burn 60% of the labor, like what's going on? Why are we behind? What's going on? Well, Jimmy, my apprentice, is too slow. Get me a better one. Like these guys don't want to fail. I mean,
Correct.
the good
Yes.
people don't want to fail,
Yes.
So I can't tell you how many times I've heard, because we treat our teams like, we do like a draft kind of thing where like the lead installers, right, who have been with me forever, have we literally have these little cards with our guys' faces on them and stuff.
Nice.
and they have like their skills, what they can do. Like, hey, I'll trade you, Bob
I love this.
And so because all the trades are represented within each crew, right? So you need plumbing, you need tile, you need paint, you need drywall, whatever. You have to have, like, it's a team, right? And so, I've heard like guys will be like, yeah, I don't want that guy. Why don't you want that guy? Well, because he's too slow. Okay, well, why is he too slow? I don't know. He's just too slow. And then you sit that guy down and go, hey, man, I'm just telling you, like, you're at the bottom here and you're too slow. Let's work with you and see if we can get you to be a little bit faster and still do quality. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You got to turn it over. But I think it's tracking. You have to monitor it. I'm not going to lie. You got to monitor it. You got to ask the questions.
How do you know anything if you're not tracking it, right? Why aren't small businesses profitable, especially with trades businesses? Because none of you know how much money you have coming in or going out. You just have a bank account and it all goes in one place and you don't know anything about it because you don't keep proper accounting of this project cost me X amount and I spent Y amount and I ended up with Z amount, and you're not setting aside money for taxes right away. Don't get me started. Go find the business budgeting spreadsheet over on Floor Academy Pod and get that.
I mean, you're right but you're right. And I had a friend of mine who was a contractor who's not doing it anymore, who said to me one day, how do you know if you're making money? And I'm like, God. What? But it's not uncommon, like I didn't know all this stuff. I didn't know how to do a work in process schedule. I didn't know how to read a P&L. I didn't know overbilling, underbilling. I had a very thumbnail concept, but I think that those are things that you need to know whether you're making or losing money, and then why you're making or losing money on a project basis. Is it the person running the crew that's not doing a good job? Is it that you underestimated it because you didn't anticipate certain things? Is it like, what is it, right? Because slippage is what kills our business. So you estimate that you're going to make a 40% margin and you end up making a 32% margin, like your profit's gone, right? So slippage is what kills our business, and the only way to manage that is to track it and then keep improving. But go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say we'll dig in more to this because I like where this is going, right? And we're hitting on a bunch of things and they all intersect with each other. But I gotta get a sponsor in here real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
If you're looking for the perfect waterproofing solutions for your tile installations, look no further than John's Manville Go Board. It's time to say goodbye to worries of moisture damage and hello to durable, easy to install tile backer. Go Board is engineered to withstand tough environments, providing excellent waterproofing protection. Whether it's your bathroom, kitchen, or any other wet area, Go Board has got you covered. Don't compromise on quality. Choose JM Go Board for the ultimate peace of mind with waterproofing. Go to your retailer and ask for Go Board. You can also visit www.jm.com/GoBoard. And don't forget about going to go over to patreon.com/Floor Academy. If this show's helping you out, go spend $5 a month over there and kick it my way to help me keep producing the content. Otherwise, you can head over to flooracademypod.com, go to the shop, pick up a shirt. Look, it's almost show season, so you're going to need to carry around all that swag at Tyson covering. So go get a fanny pack or something like that, right? Let's look better than everybody else in your Floor Academy swag. Other than that, Matt, so we're digging in. You've got this training program, and not only have we worked through, like, we have to figure out the systems and processes behind how we move through a project, then we have to look at holding people accountable to those so that we actually know whether they're being productive or not. And this all seems high level, but it's super basic in my opinion. Without these things, how do you ever know if you're really doing well? And I don't think it has to be complicated, right? It can start off as, I've got a project that I've bid at $10,000 and I have 5 days to do it, and I have 2 guys. And so does it take them the 5 8-hour days, or does it take them 5 9-hour? Like, it doesn't have to be super complicated at first. I'm assuming you grew it from, are we even making any money based on what I'm paying out versus what I'm billing, to, okay, now I can see with the technology these days, you can track stuff day by day with some of the time tracking apps and whatnot. So I don't know how advanced 1 week Bath is right now.
Well, yeah, I think you hit an important thing on the head. I mean, those folks out there that are scared of all this stuff that we're talking about, it's all very fully automated and with software packages that are not overly expensive. So, like, for us, we use a time track app that's on the phone, and they clock in, and there's a geotag on it, so we know that they're not like at Denny's or something, clocking in. And I think the hardest part of it is making sure that they consistently clock in and out. but that's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that can easily be downloaded into a spreadsheet or uploaded into QuickBooks or whatever you're doing. And so I think you said something really important. A basic understanding of your financials was like the first thing that I learned when I realized that I needed to learn it. And I had a really great teacher through this mastermind group I belong to, who was amazing. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I think that is where some people need to go first, is and like you said, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's not that complicated. I mean, I don't know, how many jobs does your average listener run at a time? Do you have any idea?
Most of my listeners are probably, it's owner operators for the most part, right? So it's going to be one at a time, which means you can do a lot of this stuff you're going to be able to do
so
yourself.
Easy.
And I have a job costing spreadsheet on flooracademypod.com. I can't look, we're plugging all the things today, but there's a job costing spreadsheet in the file section, folks.
It's right there. Yeah, I'll plug it. Go grab it. You don't have to like reinvent the wheel. This stuff's out there. So if they're only running one, so let's say you got a busy listener that's got 5 jobs going at a time or something, right? So, I mean, that's only 5 jobs to track. I have 20 jobs going at a time, well, it depends. I have 11 crews, so there is some overlap. We're starting, we're finishing.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have 20 jobs running at the same time. I probably run 25 a month at least. So it's a lot to track, but I think if you've got 1 to 5 projects running, this all started with gosh, I'm scared my employees are going to milk me, right?
Okay.
That's where all this started, right? So if that's your impetus not having employees because you're afraid that you can't track it, then that's an easy fix. You just daily you're getting you check in with your lead, what'd you get done? What percentage are we done? This is the way I would do it. I'd be like, okay, like you said, we have a $10,000 thing, whatever. We have 5 days to install this floor. End of the day, how many hours did you burn? Man hours, right? So
Yep.
like my guys will argue, well, I usually work with a crew of 3, but you pulled one of my guys off, to do like customer service or something. And they'll be like, so we only had 2. And I'm like, okay, well, it's man hours. It's not like I understand if it takes you a little bit longer because you missed a guy, whatever, but track your man hours and then at the end of the day, check in with whoever's on the crew, whoever's in charge of the crew. Someone has to be in charge of the crew and say, hey, how many hours did each of you guys work? What percentage done? How many square feet did you install? What percentage done are you? And then you'll know, like, am I behind? Am I ahead? And if you're behind, then you're like, what's going on? And how do we catch up? And how do I help you problem solve this? Right. Or is there a change order? Well, Mrs. Smith walked in and she was like, yeah, can you change the direction? It's like, yeah, that costs something, and that's another really big, that's a whole nother podcast on change orders.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And how they impact your profitability.
Well, I think getting into the numbers thing here and being able to track progress is probably a whole nother podcast, but I'm assuming that you operate off of essentially what you have as a day rate. You can look at a project and you can bid it out and you're going to know that, look, this thing's going to take me 10 days. I have to put 3 guys a day on it. Each guy makes X amount of dollars. So there's X amount in labor and then there's X amount in materials. And this is where a lot of folks, I feel, get in trouble using square foot pricing because everyone always wants to know how much per square foot,
It's such BS, right?
Well, yes and no. I'm okay with square foot pricing when you can justify your price. So again, you have to have a day rate. And if you know how much, and then you have to do time studies, which this is a whole nother thing of spending time documenting things, and you're going to be annoyed because you have to take an extra 2 minutes of not installing for the day. But I figured out all my expenses. This is the business budgeting file on the website, and you can download it and you put in how much you want to make a year and how much your insurance is and how much your truck is and how often you want to replace it, how many days off a year you want. It figures it all out. It spits out a number of how much you need to make a day. Mine is currently, it's like 10,080 or 1,083 or something like that, right? But anywhere between 1,000 and 1,100 is a good day for me. But now that I have that number, now I can go and say, okay, how much carpet can I remove in a day? How many 3x5 tub surrounds could I go and just like, how long does it actually take me to do it? And then I can know that on average, over 5 of them, it took me 2 hours to do this task. Well, that's a quarter of my day, which means I better charge $250 for that task. Or if I get 300 square feet installed every day for a week and I did a 1,500 square foot job, then I know that I can take my, 1,100 divided by 300 and it's 333 a square foot, whatever the number is, right? Now I can have square foot pricing that's justified and makes sense on average, and it'll average out over a hard job and an easy job. But the question I hate seeing the most is you go online and you hang out in these online groups and everyone's like, how much is everybody charging in this area? There's no way I'm basing my business model on somebody else's number. Get out of here.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
My favorite thing is like when people Google how much does it cost to remodel a bathroom, and it says like $10,000 when it's really like 30.
Yes.
And the internet is not the place to go for that information. But talking about the square footage pricing thing, one of the things I learned is that you have to be careful in terms of economies of scale, right? So like I'll put it in perspective for bathrooms. So someone will call me up and say, "Hey, I got a 5x8 bathroom, tub shower combo, single sink vanity toilet. It's like under 50 square feet." And I'll be like, "It's 25,000 bucks." Like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just making it
Yep.
up.
Uh-huh.
And they'll be like 500 a foot or whatever. And then I'll say, "Okay, so let's play this out. Let's just say for the sake of argument that 5x8 bathroom is 4 feet bigger in two directions. Now that bathroom is 9 feet by 12 feet. You would consider that a big bathroom, right? But the incremental cost per square foot doesn't relate, because the only thing I've added is some flooring and some paint, and it still has a tub shower combo, a toilet, a vanity. Like, so that's why square footage for us, like there is a square footage component in how we calculate our labor, but it's not the number one thing, because there's so many different operations that happen. But you're right, we do have a day rate. The trick is to figure out how many days it takes. Now, we're 1 week bath, right? Okay.
Yes.
So you would say, all right, well, you guys get your bathrooms done in a week. Well, yeah, but then we had customers coming to us saying, "Hey, I got a separate tub, separate shower. I want to take a wall out. I want to move this. I want to move that." And I'd be like, "Yeah, we don't do that. We only do jobs that take a week." And they said, "Well, we're happy if it is 2 weeks is fine." So I had to figure out a mechanism to be able to go, okay, we're 1 week, we're 5 days, 6 days, 7 day, 8 day, 9 day, whatever. People are willing to pay for it. So the catch, which you were just going to, is to figure out how much can a crew get done in a day, and then have a day rate, right? That would be ideal, because then you could, that's how we do it. How much can my crew build in a day?
Yeah.
And then a day rate. So we book the labor. It's 6 days, it's 7 days, it's 8 days of labor, whatever it is.
But at the end of it, you don't know without tracking. And it wasn't, this wasn't clear at first, right? It was based on, okay, let me send them out, and I think this is right. And then, I screwed it up, right?
Butts. Yeah, Kyle, we lost our butts, man. I mean, like, yeah, but you got to learn quickly, right? You got to be like, okay, what went wrong? We thought it was going to take 5 days and it took 7. What went wrong? Either the workers were not good, something unforeseen happened that we didn't get paid for. We underestimated it. We didn't understand that a 1920s house is harder to work on than a 1970s house. I don't know. Like, whatever it is, and then you just have to keep honing it, right? The bad part is that the smarter you get, the more expensive you get.
Because that's not a problem in my opinion. It may become harder to justify the value, but
because the guys that are blowing it are getting the jobs and blowing it, and you're like, no, there's no way we can do that for that price. So that's like a whole nother story.
Oh no, I had a client, and I bid a project for them, and it was a 3rd-story condo, and I bid it, and I added a little bit, and then it ended up, and I had to park like 1/8 of a mile down the road and it was just, I was like, okay. And I finished that. They contacted me like a 6-7 weeks later, something like that. They're like, "Hey, we bought another one." I was like, we can do the same thing, but I'm going to like up the price by 30%. And they were like, "What?" I was like, 3rd-story condo did not treat me nicely. Like,
no, we even have a thing on our thing. We have an upcharge for 3rd-story condos. I mean, we have an upcharge for condos, period. In fact, we were turning condos down just because they were total hell. The accessibility, the permitting, all the stuff you're talking about. And so, you learn that lesson, right? And then, unfortunately, that client calls you back, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you charged me 20 grand last time. You charged me 30 grand this time." You're like, "Yeah, unfortunately, we learned." That's kind of what I was talking about. But you want to naturally select yourself out of projects that aren't profitable.
Yeah, correct. I refuse to work in manufactured homes at this point. I get calls for them. I won't do it. They're just a disaster for me. The subfloors are never right. There's just nobody ever wants to spend the money to fix them. So I don't touch them. It's easier to just weed out that client. But, let's get us back on. I mean, not that we're off track. We always go on tangents here, and the conversation's been great. But I mean, what pushed you away totally from wanting subcontractors? Because you don't use them at all for 1 week bath. You don't have anybody doing anything for you. You guys handle the glass. You handle paint,
Well,
everything?
truth be told, I
okay.
I don't want to be a liar. Glass doors we can install if they're standard. If we have a highly custom steam shower or something crazy like
Mm-hmm.
that, then we have a glass contractor that we work with. But he's kind of what I would call a captured sub. He really just does our work, and he's like literally in our warehouse, and like, he can't really handle anything more than us.
Okay.
So I don't want to misspeak here.
That's fine.
But other than that, I mean, you're talking about a bathroom that probably has 11 trades in it. If you think about plumbing and electrical and paint and tile and demo and, cabinetry and finished carpentry, and, like, you have all the trades. And yeah, we don't use subs. So the thing that drove me away from subs was, so what I figured out was that profit, this is going to be a really big statement, and I hope it works. Profit is not about a percentage. It is about how quickly you can inject profit into your business. So if I have a job that, I'm just making these numbers up, okay? Mm-hmm. If I have a job that's running at 20% gross profit, and I can inject $2,000 a day worth of profit into my business, I'd rather have that than a 40% gross profit job that generates $1,000 a day. And so it's about, there's a book I won't bore.
You're talking cash flow, right?
I'm talking not only cash flow, but profit flow. So the idea is that what I figured out was that if I could get these bathrooms done faster, I would collect the revenue, collect the profit. I could generate a lot more profit and revenue faster. Mm-hmm. And that was the impetus for the speed. I mean, the speed is a sales pitch a little bit because people want to minimize disruption in their lives. But in the end, most of our customers go, hey, you're not charging me a premium to go fast, right? And I'm like, no, I mean, it doesn't cost more to be efficient, right? So but it was about, look, the longer you take to do a job, the longer it takes for you to get your money. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's why I said there's no way I can do this with subs. If I did a bathroom the way normal general contractors do a bathroom with subs, it would take me 6 weeks. So I'm going to make, let's say, for example, I have a bathroom that I'm going to make in a week. Let's say I make $10,000. I'm just making it up. Gross profit, $10,000 just to make it easy. So it's a couple grand a day. Right.
Okay.
If I take 4 weeks to build that bathroom, I mean, even if the labor doesn't cost me more because I'm using subs, I've got all these gaps, right? And so all of a sudden I went from making a couple grand a day to making $500 a day. Like, I'm going to have an incrementally a lot more crews and a lot more stuff going on to make my nut than if I'm So it was about revenue and profit velocity into my company. And I knew that so number one, I wanted to generate gross profit and revenue faster. Number two, I didn't want to have to fight the battle of calling subs every 10 million times. Where are you? How come nobody showed up? When are you coming? This doesn't come out right. You didn't send anybody to supervise. Like, I was over it, man. Just over it. So it was the headache factor. It was the speed factor, quality. Our job as prime contractors or flooring contractors or general contractors is to quality control the people we hire. So, but I can tell you that it's sure a heck of a lot. I can trust my guys 100%. Like,
okay.
I'm going to knock on wood, and I'm going to tell you, I would never worry that something would go missing in a client's home, ever. Like, without question, with my guys. But you got different subs coming in and out. You don't know who it is. Something goes missing. Oh, I didn't take it.
I just didn't want all that, you know?
Well, again,
So
it takes a little more time, but again, if I think this is what amazes me is that we're all control freaks. Like artisans at heart are control freaks, and we all think nobody's going to do it as well as us, and nobody can do it better. And then we go and most businesses run a subcontracting model. Why wouldn't you want to hire an employee where you get to control everything and you can vet them before they start? Like you said, you trust your crews to not touch anything in the house. No pills are going to go missing. No jewelry is going to go missing. No money's going to go missing. They go in, they do their work because they're paid fairly for a day's work to get it done, and they feel good about it. They take pride in their job. And so if you're having trouble with employees, that comes down to you and your interview process, which you can go back and find the mock employee I believe it's titled mock employee interview. Maybe it's just mock interview. It's with Erin Albrecht, with J&R Tile out of San Antonio. She has a great hiring process. But if you're hiring for a growth mindset instead of a scarcity mindset, you're doing, like you said, you're doing personality tests on them. I don't know if you're doing background checks or not. I think it's
for sure.
Okay.
For
See,
sure.
in the trade, there's another problem. Is I think a lot of times that blue collar jobs get associated with, you can have a shady past. And
Kyle, do you know how many times we've done background checks and we'll say to a guy, "Hey, have you ever been convicted of a felony?" And we'll get that like movie thing where he's like, "Convicted? No, never convicted," or whatever. And then we'll be like, and then we'll do the background check, and it'll come back that he has like an abuse charge on his like. I can't send that person in someone's home.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to send a guy who beat up his wife into a customer's home. Like, I'm not going to do it. Like, that's not.
I
but
agree.
if I'm using if subs who don't check their people, who don't know, God bless them. I mean, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what I'm going to get. Mm-hmm. And that's just, it's just not.
Everybody deserves a second chance, okay? And
of course.
I am that guy. Look, I made a bad decision when I was in my 20s, and I was selling pot, and I have a felony with intent to distribute. Did it hold me back? It's not a violent offense. I get it. Drug offenses can be different depending on what it is. But if we're looking at what the offense is, and we can start weeding some people out. Pot's different than you were caught selling meth constantly, right? Like there's shades of gray within this to determine it, but it's your company, and I'm assuming with 70 employees that you have core values, a mission statement, and a vision statement. So
of course,
now we can communicate these things, and we can. I've been harping on core values on the show for like 6 months. So, but you can hire on those. That's why they're important, because now you can make sure that somebody fits what the company represents. And most companies, it's, hey, Billy down the street just graduated. Let's go grab him. You don't know anything about Billy. Like, what the hell?
Not only can you hire on them, but you can do reviews on them, and you can fire on them. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've said to the team, I had to free up so-and-so's future because he or she didn't stick to one of our core values. And this is the one that they didn't stick to. And my team appreciates, because I'll say to people, like, by the way, I don't, since we're on core values, I don't make them up. Like, this is a team thing, right? Look, I'm the owner. It's not a democracy. Okay. But in the end, I want to guide my team into saying, okay, what are our collective core values? What do we hold dear to ourselves? And what are we going to be upset about if somebody comes into our company and violates these values? If honesty is violated, if a lack of customer centricity is violated, those types of things, the team will freaking vote these people off the island.
You're building culture, and they'll
just be like, sorry, the tribe has spoken. Bye.
Yeah, no, you're building culture, and they start managing themselves more, and you have to do less because they want to protect themselves from people that are going to destroy it. They don't want that poisonous person coming in and messing up what they have, and saying that you let them kind of help form the stuff and decide, you know, hey, let's get rid of this one, let's add this one, if that's what it comes to, is great. I think one of the best things I had, I'll shout out Van Church here, Statement Hardwood Flooring in Utah. He's in the mastermind group. He was working on setting up like expectations of what expectations were when you were in somebody's home, because his employees were kind of complaining, and he was like, you guys go home and you write up what your expectations would be of somebody working in your home, and then you bring it back to me.
That's awesome.
Well, but here's the thing, is what nobody realizes is that if you ask a child to come up with a punishment for themselves, it will always be more severe than what you would have actually have done to them. So by asking your employees to come up with how they need to behave within a client's home, they set higher standards than he would have. And they brought him back and he was like, this is great. You guys know how to do it now. And they were like, oh, like they got all deflated.
Darn.
You know, he pulled one over on them. But it set a higher standard of how to operate within the home and what should be expected, right? We can't sag our pants. We're going to take our shoes off. We're going to, you know, we're going to be polite. We're going to ask to use the restroom. Is there only one that you would like us to use, right? Whatever it is. But by having them participate in it, they take more ownership of it, but they also set higher standards than he probably would have set alone by himself.
Well, ownership's the buy-in is what you're talking about. That's, I mean, the only way to get buy-in is to have involvement. Like, I would never dictate. I kind of would guide them and go, don't you think honesty might be on the list? You know, type thing. But I don't, but yeah. So anyway, we were talking about, like, you know, that you can dictate those things when you're hiring. Mm-hmm. You can't dictate those things when you're hiring out. When you're out.
Yeah, with the sub, you can't do that, right? And so maybe Johnny feels great today and he's like, man, I'm all about working with you. And on Wednesday, he fights with his significant other in the morning and he's pissed off and he's like, you know what? I just don't care today.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
There's not much you can do about it. You handed over a work order and Johnny's got it now. Whereas if Johnny's your employee and he comes in and you see he's not having a great day, you can nip it right there. You can say, you know what? Look, dude, go home for the day. I'll pay you. Just go figure it out, because I don't need you here today. And you've probably saved yourself thousands of dollars at that point. So I think in my opinion, the advantages outweigh the negatives. And it might cost you a little bit more, but you know what? I don't have to make all the money in the world either. Like, I'm willing to make slightly less money to enrich more people's lives. That's how I look at it.
I don't know. I don't want to disagree with you. Of course, it's your podcast.
No, you listen. That's what we're here for, right? And I don't know
that it would cost you more necessarily. I just think that there are obvious, as we talked about, risks associated with it. You got to track your stuff. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm thinking of maybe I should shop a bathroom that I'm doing to subs and see where the numbers come out, just for my own head, right? Mm-hmm. Because that would be an interesting exercise to go, okay, here's what it's going to cost me using my labor. Here's what it would cost me if I hired a separate plumber, separate this guy, separate that guy.
I mean, I figure
interesting exercise.
You're finding it, right? And so I think my basic numbers, and if I was going to pay a sub and I sold the job and I had to do all the stuff behind it and organize it, right, and I'm just going to send a guy to go do it, he's got to walk away with at least 70 to 80% of the money. Because on the labor side, right? I'm going to make money on the materials and all that stuff, but he's probably going to walk away with like 70 to 80%. Somewhere between 20 to 30% of the margin or, profit for you is good. And with employees, it's going to cost you. I have a whole thing on, like, I can give you a total compensation package of 50%. So if there's if there's a $10,000 project, I can pay you 5 of it, and then the company gets 5, and we'll split it 50-50. But that includes me matching your taxes, your IRA. It includes your 50% is everything. Your workman's comp. I'm not paying that out of my 50%. Technically, that's compensation to you. It's not recognized.
Right.
Again, I'm pulling this from like larger corporate worlds, right? But then I get 50% to operate on. But if I'm going to provide you a company truck, that can come out of the 50%. The tools come out of the 50%. The shop space comes out of the 50%. All of this stuff starts coming out of it. You might end up with the same 20 to 30%. Maybe it's a little bit less. However, I would be okay with it being less because I'm building something that allows me to enrich people's lives. I don't know that I can have as much impact on a subcontractor that comes and goes as they please as I can an employee that shows up every day, and I can actually get to know them, build a very strong relationship. I can put things in place where if I wanted to, I could start offering, hey, everyone has access to the local community college. I'll pay for, one class a semester or whatever it is. Or I can institute a reading program, and I can put all the books that I have on a bookshelf and say, you know what, you read a book. When you're done, you come sit down with me. We'll talk about it for 15 minutes. You give me a little book review, and I'll give you a $25 gas card or $25 card to wherever you want. There's little ways that you can start giving back and investing in people. And that's really the benefit of employees to me, and why I like that model more is I want to find people and make them better and lead them to be the best version of themselves, as opposed to just making it a transaction that's about money. And with subs, but it's all money.
It's clear it's your passion, because otherwise you wouldn't have the mastermind thing. You wouldn't have those things. I mean, yeah, you want to make money, but it's very clear, not all business owners are motivated by that, right? But it's very clear that that's important to you. And if that is important to you, and I'm saying to the group, then yeah, look, I just told you I had a guy work for me for 35 years. He was like my brother from another mother. I bought him a Tacoma and sent him on his way on his last day.
Wow.
We grew up together in the business, and I miss him. And I was able to keep him and his family in the pink for 35 years, Awesome. And I had another guy just left after 20 years, same thing. So I enjoy that as much as anybody. And you're right. You can't, part of the joy of owning a business is what you just described. Right.
I would hope so.
Not everybody, unfortunately, not everybody thinks like that. I wanted it so much that I used to run mastermind groups for my subs. I used to have these, I would invite my subs and, okay, we're going to talk about financials. Let's bring all your financials. Let's figure, because I wanted to make them better. I knew that if they were better business people, then I would be better, because I relied on them. And some of them showed up and some of them didn't, but like my employees, it's like, we have training all the time. It's ongoing. Every Wednesday meeting, we share our financials. We talk about challenges. It is one of the joys of owning a business. So you can't do that with subs. You're right.
I love what you got going on over there. You've got profit sharing going on. You're sharing financials and having open books, which I've talked about on the show before. You've built. Can I just come steal your company? Can you send me all your stuff and I'll just build one out here?
No, Kyle, you're gonna die. I franchised it, right? Because I thought, I got a great model. I got a great system. I got a great process. I got a training program. I got all this stuff. Couldn't sell a franchise to save my life. You know why? Because people in my business don't want help. They're like, I'm going to do it myself. What do I need you for? Why do I have to pay 6% of my revenue to you? And I couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy to come out to where are you at?
I'm in Phoenix, man. I'm like 6 hours away.
Right.
Yeah.
You are right for this. So my daughter was actually stationed at Luke, at the Air Force Base. So I was out in Arizona a bit, and this model could work anywhere for sure.
Oh, I believe it.
The model could work for a flooring company.
I 100% believe it. I don't see anything broken with it, right? There's a ton of options. I'm the guy that when somebody says, "Hey, that doesn't work in my area," I say, "Okay, did you actually try it, or did you just hear that from somebody else?" Because I'm going to go try it, and I'm going to find a way to make it work, right? Like, you can't charge for estimates. Yes, you can, because stop calling it an estimate. It's a consultation.
We used to laugh in our group meetings too, where somebody from like, I don't know, Philadelphia would be like, "Yeah, that might work in Los Angeles, but it's not going to work in Philadelphia." Like, it just, yeah, you're right.
Look, you just got to find the right clientele in every situation. There's somebody that's willing to pay, because I love that everyone's like, "Well, it shouldn't cost. It cost this much over here, and it costs that much over there." Great. My Ford F-150 costs the same amount whether I buy it in Manhattan or if I buy it in, Hollywood or Phoenix or the middle of nowhere, Iowa. There is a set rate that it costs them to get that truck into America. Taxes are going to vary some, but the base price is the base price, and the dealership can do what they want to do from there. So why is it that there's guys in my city that will still remove tile for $1 a square foot, and I'm charging $3.50 and getting it, right? Like, they could charge more, but they're not. And that's why look, they can do what they want to do. I'll go find the people that want to pay me what they want to pay me. I'm not worried about it. It's crazy. Yeah. Is there something we didn't hit on about your training program or using employees that you feel we need to mention?
I do. Yes. Two things.
Okay.
One is a great way to find solid employees. If you don't have any employees, this won't work. But if you have employees, a great way to find solid employees, people want to work with people they like. They want to work with their friends. They want to work with people they know. They want to work. So we instituted an employee referral program, basically, where if one of our people referred someone and they stayed with us a specific amount of time, they would get a juicy finder's fee.
Okay.
So the key to that is they have to stay a certain amount of time, so they don't play this game where they get hired and you give them money and then they leave. And then they go, "Buddy, I'll split it with you," because it was like a lot of money. It's like, it's sometimes it's $1,000, $2,000, like it's good money.
Wow.
So I would encourage anybody who has some employees to use their employees as the place to start to say, "Hey, we want more people and quality people because those referrals are the best." So that's one thing. The other thing is that we do start a lot. Okay, so we don't necessarily hire a lead off the street. Like that's typically not what's going to happen because we really need to vet people.
Okay.
So we'll hire. So if you have a crew of 3, you're going to have a lead installer, you're going to have a journeyman, and then you're going to have just like a schlepper, right? Like somebody who's just like dragging mud around and mix it or whatever. And so I have guys that started with me, we'll call them number 3s. That's the bottom guy, like minimum wage type guy. I have guys that have been with me since they were number 3s and now they're running crews. So I think that you absolutely want to promote from within, and you absolutely want on the job training coupled with making sure that the people that are training your people are training them per your standard operating procedures, right? Because like you said in the beginning, if I have 11 crews and each crew leader is installing a different way, it gets crazy. So, that's why when we first started, we had one trainer. We would do base training with one trainer, so it was consistent. So it was one of our leads, and he would get an extra stipend for training.
Okay.
Or we would put a new guy on that crew. That was always a training crew, right? So that there was consistency in training. But I think I guess my point is that bringing people up from the bottom is a great thing to do because it's really hard to grab someone off the street and, and definitely do skills testing. Like definitely, like in the warehouse, lay out 100 square feet of tile, or like I don't know, or somewhere like I don't know where, garage, but because how many people have you hired where they're like, "Yeah, I'm awesome, I can do that," and then it's like, holy moly, I'm glad we're not in a customer's house,
Yeah, no, totally. And then I think I would add that you can want it. One of the biggest lesson that I learned, and I haven't hired an employee in quite a while now, but you can't want it more for them than they want it themselves. And don't get hung up on it. Like, I think when you think you need to fire somebody, if you start having the thought of like, should I fire this person? You probably need to fire the person. Like, there's no thought about it. You wouldn't be having those thoughts if you didn't need to.
My wife's like, we've been together like 38 years or whatever. She'll be like, I haven't heard you talk about this person for a while. That's a good thing, because the minute I come home and start going, oh my God, she's like, it's time. Like she knows it's time, because we hang on to people longer than we should. We always do. It's too hard to, anyway.
You're like, I'm not going to find somebody else. Like they'll figure it out. You make all the excuses in the world. Fire them, find somebody else. Learn how to interview better, learn how to train better. I think there's a problem too, is how long did it take you to find somebody that was good at training? Because training somebody is a skill in and of itself.
Yeah, I got lucky in the beginning. I found a guy that was interested in training other people, because some of the guys are just like, you know what, I don't have time. I got to lay this wall, So it's look, it's not without challenge, but it's definitely more rewarding, no doubt.
I believe it. All right, Matt, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights on your company. If people want to reach out to you and learn more about 1 Week Bath, you want to throw anything out? Email, phone number, whatever you got, if they're interested?
Yeah, you can email me directly at Plaskoff, P-L-A-S as in Sam, K-O-F-F as in Frank, at oneweekbath.com, spelled out, and it's not W-E-A-K, by the way. So
love
to clarify that. Yeah.
And
happy to.
You know what? We should have thrown this out at the beginning of the episode, because I bet you that my tile and stone friends are listening and they're like, oh, 1 Week Bath. This is one of those like tub conversion companies. They're doing custom baths, folks. Like, this is a legit business that is kicking ass and taking names, and you could learn a lot here. He has built something very cool and very special. So it was great having you share with us. I very much appreciate it. Folks, I've got a couple of words here. Registration is open, folks. So it is nearing show season, and I want to remind you that the International Surface event is returning to Las Vegas January 24th through the 26th. Mark your calendars now, and Floor Academy podcast listeners will have the opportunity to register for free using the code Kyle. It will get you a free exhibition pass. You can't screw it up. It's just my name, Kyle. Whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our our industry, attending TICE is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base. You can also learn about the newest industry-leading products coming to market, and stay up to date with the International Surfaces event page on Facebook or online at intlsurfaceevent.com. I'm not kidding. January 24th to 26th. Go put it on your calendar. Book your room. Book your tickets now. It's the only way you're going to go. I know how you contractors work, because the only way I ever commit to anything is I have to actually spend the money. So go spend the money on the ticket and the hotel room, and you'll actually go. It's always a great time catching up with everybody there. You know the grind, the dust, the rain, the cold. We do too. We're IQ Power Tools, born from the sweat and grit of two masons who knew there had to be a better way. We're not just making tools, we're elevating the whole damn game. From our hands to yours, our story is your story. So let's cut the dust, not the ambition. Can't wait to meet you where it all happens, the job site. For more information on IQ Power Tools and their products, check out the link in the show notes. And I got a request, guys, go use the link in the show notes. They are tracking everything, and so you clicking on that link helps support the show. And so do it that way. Don't just like, you can go to iqpowertools.us if you want, but if you really love this show and what it does for you and your business, go in the show notes and click that link. Don't forget about the mastermind groups. You can learn more. Check out the website. I mentioned, like, we talked about, like, all the files that are available over there. They'll help grow your business. You can help support the show at patreon.com/Floor Academy. And I think that's enough. That's enough plugs. Thank you again, Matt. I very much appreciate your time. We will catch you all next week.
I like what you're doing. Take care.